Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
Since I was young, I would spend hours taking apart old computers, learning how they work, and putting them back together. Being a 17-year-old high school student who runs a small computer repair business from home, I'm always on the lookout for good deals on computer parts. When I heard Micro Center was opening a new store in our state, I was beyond excited. They're known for having great prices on computer components, though they're still relatively small, with stores in only 16 states. I immediately signed up for their opening survey and was lucky enough to receive a promotional coupon for a free 128GB USB drive and a 128GB micro SD card, no purchase necessary. I had been saving up money from my repair business to upgrade my computer's RAM and add an extra hard drive. The timing couldn't have been better, so I decided to visit the new store that Saturday evening. The store was impressive, though fairly quiet since it was close to closing time. I quickly found the RAM sticks and hard drive I needed, then headed to the online pickup section to claim my free items. I greeted the worker and showed them the coupon on my phone. They scanned it and opened what looked like a mailbox to retrieve the items. The worker handed me the Micro Center branded USB drive and micro SD card, along with a receipt showing I had received them from online pickup. I tucked everything into my jeans pocket and headed to the checkout line. There was only one person behind me, a middle-aged woman who kept staring at me for some reason. When I placed my items on the counter, I started digging in my pockets for my wallet. I had to take out the USB drive, micro SD card, and their receipt first. The clerk looked at the receipt while I was getting my wallet. Suddenly, the woman behind me started yelling about theft. She was accusing me of stealing the USB items and demanding that someone stop me. I froze, completely shocked by the accusation. Before I could even respond, a massive security guard who looked like he lived at the gym appeared. The woman immediately demanded that he arrest me for stealing merchandise. The clerk quickly jumped to my defense, explaining to the woman that I hadn't done anything wrong and showing my receipt from the online order section. The security guard looked at me, noting my t-shirt and jean pockets turned inside out from searching for my wallet. After examining the receipt, he confirmed that everything appeared to be in order. This seemed to enrage the woman even more. She started shouting about wanting to speak to a manager and threatening to get both the clerk and security guard fired. Two managers arrived shortly after, and the woman immediately launched into her version of events, demanding that the employees be fired for allegedly helping me steal. The clerk handed over my receipt, and the security guard explained the situation. One manager instructed the clerk to help me complete my purchase while they handled the situation with the angry woman. I paid for my RAM and hard drive, placed everything in a bag, and headed out to my car. When I was getting ready to leave, I saw the security guard escorting the woman out of the store while she screamed hysterically. The guard warned her to leave the property immediately or he would call the police. As I drove away, I saw her storming off, still yelling. The store's security cameras caught her entire meltdown, and I later learned she'd been permanently banned from all Micro Center locations. Being a young person of color, I've unfortunately experienced this kind of profiling before, but I've never had someone so adamantly insist I was stealing something when I had a receipt in my hand. At least I got my computer upgrades and some free storage devices out of the deal, plus the satisfaction of knowing she'll never be able to shop there again. I'm 16 and have autism, which sometimes makes stressful situations overwhelming for me, but I needed the job. My parents thought it would be good for me to get some work experience before college, and I actually enjoyed being outdoors. I'd been working there for about a month, getting comfortable with the routine. The park maintenance team was great, especially my co-worker who I'll just call my friend. We spent most days driving around in an old Polaris Ranger, which didn't even have a windshield, fixing things and helping visitors. That day started normally. We had just finished jump-starting another co-worker's ancient truck when everything went sideways. When we were driving back to the shop, this woman suddenly ran into the road, forcing my friend to slam on the brakes. I was holding our jump starter kit and nearly flew through the non-existent windshield. The woman just stood there with this plastic smile and cheerfully explained that they'd been having fun but were now ready to go home, except their battery was dead. She was hoping we could help them. I was about to help despite almost becoming a human projectile, but my friend interrupted. He explained that we needed special permission for something like that. We called our supervisor, who explained we couldn't do it because the state park could be held liable for any battery damage. And I tried explaining this to the woman, but then her friend emerged from their van. The second woman asked in a snarky voice if we really weren't going to help them. Her tone was dripping with attitude. Then they started tag-teaming us with entitled demands. The first woman suggested we could just jump-start their car and keep it a secret. I had to explain that rules were rules, and helping them would actually be breaking the law. A kid's voice came from the van whining about wanting to go home. The first woman tried using her child's distress to manipulate us, telling the kid she knew while insisting to us that no one would know if we just grabbed the jump starter and helped them. She was getting more aggressive by the second. My friend lost his patience and told her that while other people could help them with a jump, we simply couldn't. The first woman exploded, berating us for our supposed lack of manners and saying she had 4 children with her who she didn't want, acting like stupid teenagers like us. We just looked at each other and headed back to the Ranger. That's when the second woman started yelling at us for daring to walk away, demanding we come back. As we tried to leave, they started playing a bizarre game of human roadblock. One would run in front of us, then the other behind us. When we tried to escape through the grass, I felt a tug. The second woman was trying to steal our jump starter kit. I yanked it back from her hands, and she immediately started screaming that I should stop touching her. We managed to escape and reported everything to our supervisor. But 20 minutes later, 4 police officers showed up. Apparently, these women had called, claiming we threatened and assaulted them. I broke down while telling my story to the officers. When one of the women pointed at me and her hip, suggesting I'd hurt her, I just collapsed on the ground crying, expecting to be arrested. One officer gently told me to get up. Through my tears, I asked if they didn't need to search me first. He just laughed and explained they were going to check the security cameras from the pool entrance since it pointed toward where everything happened. The security footage showed everything, including the second woman trying to steal the jump starter and hitting herself on the Ranger when I pulled it away from her. The officer announced that we had been right and told the second woman she was under arrest for attempted theft. She immediately started protesting, saying it wasn't fair and calling us selfish names. The officer sharply told her to be quiet, which finally shut her up. The first woman desperately tried calling her husband, but he didn't answer, and they still needed a tow truck in the end. I've been having a pretty rough month at work. The hospital where I work as an emergency room nurse had been understaffed, and I pulled 3 double shifts in the past week alone. Today was my first day off in what felt like forever, and I was determined to treat myself to my favorite comfort food, Domino's pizza. It was a beautiful Texas day with perfect weather, sunny with a cool breeze that made everything feel just right. I spent the morning sleeping in and catching up on some much-needed rest. By lunchtime, my stomach was growling, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I placed my order online, a large pepperoni pizza with extra cheese and garlic crust, and headed out to pick it up. The drive was peaceful, and I was already imagining how good that first bite would taste. That's when things got interesting. When I pulled into the Domino's parking lot and got out of my car, I witnessed something that made my blood boil. A white Jeep suddenly cut across lanes, pulling right in front of a red Mustang. The Mustang driver had to slam on their brakes, but it was too late. Crash! I couldn't help but giggle a little as I walked into the store. Working in the emergency room, I'd seen plenty of entitled people trying to lie their way out of situations, and I just knew this was about to be one of those moments. When I went inside, I simply told the worker my name for the pickup order. They handed over my pizza and asked if I wanted any ranch. I requested a couple packets, and they happily obliged. I grabbed my pizza and headed back outside just in time to see both cars pulling into the parking lot. That's when I heard it, a sound that could only be described as a pterodactyl attacking its prey. I started my car and slowly backed up, windows down to catch all the drama. Karen was screaming at the Mustang driver, accusing him of speeding and threatening to call the police. Both drivers were frantically typing on their phones. I couldn't help myself. I had to step in. I called out to them, explaining that I'd witnessed the whole thing and saw Karen pull in front of the Mustang. I wanted to make sure the Mustang driver wasn't hurt. Her jaw dropped and her eyes bulged out like they might pop right out of her head. The Mustang driver was shocked to learn I'd seen everything, and when I offered to stay as a witness for the police, he looked like he might burst into tears of relief. Meanwhile, Karen was turning red. She started yelling that I was lying and insisted that I couldn't have seen anything, still claiming the Mustang driver had been speeding. I parked a few spots away and watched as Karen cycled through her excuses. First, she started complaining about back pain. When the Mustang driver pointed out that she had pulled right in front of him, she switched to threatening them with her lawyer son. When asked for her insurance information, she refused, insisting that since the Mustang had hit her, she shouldn't have to provide anything. She then claimed she didn't even have her insurance card with her. The police finally showed up about an hour later. I've been catching up on some Netflix on my phone, occasionally looking up to watch Karen pacing back and forth, alternating between clutching various body parts and making angry phone calls. When the officer arrived, Karen immediately started accusing me of being friends with a Mustang driver, claiming it was all an elaborate scam. The police officer, looking thoroughly unimpressed, walked over to the Mustang driver first. After collecting his license and insurance information, the driver pointed toward me. The officer asked for my statement, which I gladly provided, explaining exactly what I'd seen. Karen interrupted constantly, clutching her chest and wailing about how her heart couldn't take all these lies. I provided my license and phone number to the officer, made sure the Mustang driver had my contact information, and finally headed home with my now cold pizza. But you know what? It was worth it. A week later, I got a call from the Mustang driver's insurance company. They wanted my statement again, and I was happy to provide it. The adjuster mentioned that Karen had been trying to claim the Mustang driver was at fault and that she had whiplash, but the traffic cameras at the intersection had caught the whole thing. Between my witness statement and the video evidence, Karen was found completely at fault. Apparently, she'd been running this scam for a while, but this time she picked the wrong place and the wrong time to try it. My cold pizza that day might have been the most satisfying meal I'd had in a long time. I work in cybersecurity, which makes this story even more ironic. You'd think after spending 5 years helping companies protect themselves from hackers, I'd be more careful with my own accounts. But there I was, rushing through my morning routine, getting ready for an important client meeting, when my phone buzzed with purchase notifications. I nearly spat out my coffee when I saw 4 separate charges of $100 each from Walmart. I hadn't bought anything from Walmart in weeks. Opening my email, I found receipts for iTunes gift cards I definitely hadn't ordered. I muttered as I stared at my screen. Immediately, I called my bank. I explained to the representative that I needed to report unauthorized charges on my debit card. The representative acknowledged the charges I was referring to and assured me they would cancel my card right away and investigate the matter. They asked if I would like to press charges if they identified the perpetrator, to which I replied that I absolutely wanted the person caught. While waiting for the bank to investigate, I noticed something that made me laugh. The gift cards were digital, and the confirmation emails were sitting right there in my inbox. The genius who hacked my account hadn't even bothered to change my email address or account login details. The emails clearly stated that if the cards weren't redeemed within 12 hours, the purchase would be automatically refunded. I just had to wait it out. 12 hours later, just as promised, the $400 was back in my account. But the story doesn't end there. The next day, my phone rang. The bank representative called with good news, explaining that they had identified the individual responsible for the unauthorized charges. They told me that Walmart's security team had helped them track the IP address and the purchases were made from Bentonville, Arkansas. When I expressed surprise at the distance, noting it was 4 states away from me, the representative confirmed they had all the necessary details to proceed with charges and asked if I wanted to move forward. I didn't hesitate to agree. The bank connected me with their fraud department, who then put me in touch with local law enforcement in Bentonville. The police officer I spoke with revealed that this wasn't the first time this person had tried something like this. They explained that they had been tracking similar cases in the area, and while this individual had attempted this scam multiple times, this was the first time they had been able to trace it back to them so clearly. When I asked how they could mess up so badly, the officer explained that they had used their home IP address without any attempt to mask it, and had even tried to log into the gift cards from their personal device multiple times, leaving a clear digital trail. 2 weeks later, I received another call. They'd arrested the guy. He'd been running this scam for months, but most victims didn't notice until the gift cards were already redeemed. In my case, his sloppiness finally caught up with him, and what was supposed to be a simple credit card fraud charge turned into a much bigger case. He is now facing multiple federal charges for identity theft and wire fraud. The detective handling the case called me one last time with an interesting detail. During questioning, the perpetrator had admitted he specifically targeted Walmart accounts because he thought digital gift cards would be sent to whatever email address he entered during checkout. He never realized they're automatically sent to the account holder's email. When I asked if he really hadn't done basic research on how digital gift cards work, the detective added that the guy had even complained about getting repeatedly locked out of the gift cards. Here was someone who thought they could outsmart the system, but didn't understand the basic concept of digital delivery. The $400 he tried to steal from me ended up being the least of his problems. Local news picked up the story, and it turned out this guy had been bragging about his foolproof scam on social media. Now he's facing years in federal prison, all because he couldn't be bothered to understand how digital gift cards work or take basic precautions to hide his identity. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.